Okay, I think we're live now. So,
Alright, cool.
yeah, this is probably going to be a like, often thing. I'm going to call it casual hangouts. But, topic to start us off is going to be the group mindset in role-playing games and your opinion on it and how you think it affects the group as a whole. Like just to get us started off, I would say Juice just posted a video about picking roles, like filling roles in a group. As where I don't think people should have to pick certain classes. I do believe that, in my opinion, it gets a little annoying when like too many people play the same class the same way, because I feel like they're stepping on each other's toes and no one feels important to the party, you know.
Wow.
Oh, Terry's joining it. What's up, bro?
Well, I can totally do this on my phone.
Nice.
I'm not wearing any clothes, by the way.
That's awesome. And this is live.
Hey, dress it, Jerry.
Hey, how you doing? John O'Connor.
Doing alright.
Yeah. We're talking about the group mindset of role-playing games, like making decisions based on the entire group instead of you as an individual. So I guess just go on with whatever you feel about the topic.
It's a very broad topic.
It is a broad topic. Like, I was just saying that someone posted a video about filling party roles. Like, you know, someone's got to be the thief, someone's got to be the fighter, someone's got to be the cleric, you know, someone has to heal, stuff like that. And he was saying that, you know, that's not important. It's not really important. But I was saying that my opinion on picking roles is more along the lines not stepping on each other's toes. You know, if we got two raging barbarians that focus on doing nothing but damage, it might get a little irritating to be the second best barbarian.
Well, you know, my personal opinion on the whole barbarian thing, the more barbarians, the better. But I do agree on that.
I understand what you're...
Go ahead.
Alright, sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, you're cool.
I understand what you're getting at there about not stepping on everybody's toes.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's the fine line that you kind of walk is let people play what they want to play, but you got to give them their own time in the spotlight. So sometimes you're going to have a party of 4 bards, and you just got to tell one, all right, you play bass, you play drums, and you play the guitar.
Yeah, right.
You only have room for 1 lead vocals.
Yeah, it's not really as much as what class you play. I just believe that it comes down to how you play. Like, it can get a little stale when everybody's trying to play the same character, or when 2 people are trying to play the same exact character. Sooner or later, one of them is probably going to change, and they might not necessarily want to. But then again, that argument goes back to when they're both making their characters, they both wanted to play that. So what do you do about that?
Well, I believe that, first of all, no one ever plays the same character. You have 2 bards, you're never going to have the same bard. And the beautiful thing about time over a campaign is things change. Things change drastically. You'll have a first level fighter, and you'll end up with a horizon shit happen.
Yeah, I mean, like what Juice was saying, though, like he said, even if you are missing one of what you feel is an important role in the party, sooner or later someone's going to probably try and make up for it. Like, maybe the fighter will start dipping levels into a certain class, or maybe someone who's playing a class with a lot of skill points might start dipping skill points into more varied skills. So, I don't know.
And I always try to encourage people to play something different. You guys are barbarians. I'll sit down with the guy who came up with the idea to be a barbarian second and say, hey, you know, if you want to be a fighter, you know, a character that deals damage, we can do this. Because there's options. There's hundreds of options. I actually sat down and started reading the Pathfinder rulebook like religiously last night, and there is so much you can do. And as a matter of fact, I'm actually sad that I haven't got to play Pathfinder until now, because I want to play a Rage Prophet so bad it hurts.
Oh gosh. Oh, did you get the advanced book yet?
Yes.
You know? That's what you've been reading through then, right? The archetypes.
Well, it's a prestige class.
Oh,
Barbarian
okay. I thought maybe that was an archetype. I mean, that's one thing that really makes me love Pathfinder. I'm not 100% down with the setting as a whole, but I'm pretty sure there's ways to get around it. But I do love the idea of archetypes, because I won't play a ranger just because they cast spells. But archetypes do change that. But originally I was going to do a video on the group mindset as a whole, and originally what I was going to go with was the idea of how you role play, because I feel that some people come to the table as an individual. They come to the table and they didn't consider the fact that they're going to be in a party. They create this outcast character who's always been a loner and doesn't really care for much people. As where you can just avoid that and just play in a party and never mention it again, it is kind of hard to believe that all of a sudden now you are willing to work with 3 to 4 other people. I mean, you legitimately said in your background that you don't like people. Like, maybe you're playing a ranger and you only like animals. How do you get around that and work with people?
Oh, at that point, it kind of, if they put that in their backstory, it really falls onto you, the DM, to kind of go, ah, crap, they said that, didn't they? So your first night out or your first story you're telling, you kind of have to create the, all right, this is everybody's common enemy, and through just the adventure of taking care of whatever the threat was, you know, these 4 individuals become one team. They learn to trust each other and learn to lean on one another. I can't stand humans, but that one rogue's okay.
Yeah. I guess, like, if you did go ahead and just throw them into a situation where they didn't have a chance but to work together, might, you know, ease up on them, you know. But, welcome, Brian.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Just to kind of get you up to speed, we're talking about, like, the group mindset when it comes to role playing, opposed to individual mindset.
Okay.
Like I just said that I feel that when some people make their characters, they create this background that is near impossible to put into a group of people. Or in some situations, they create this background that gets in the way of other people. Like, let's say that one player is playing a lawful good paladin, and another person's playing a lawful neutral druid, or not druid, cleric. And then someone comes along and is playing a chaotic evil thief. Where does that character party? I mean, because that's clashing viewpoints. That's, to me, that would be 2 separate
Partly,
Go ahead.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, really, it's the best thing to do would be like to have everyone make their characters together, and this one guy. because there's some people who are just naturally contrarian. You know, like they'll play whatever, you know, whatever because they want to be partly. Maybe they want to. Maybe they just want to be a snowflake. Maybe they want to be a different. They imagine themselves as. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, they imagine themselves as this rogue wild card, but sometimes they're just an asshole.
Yep. And then we could always talk about Terry's character, Gonad. Where does Gonad fit into a party, Terry?
He is the party.
He is the party. He brings the party with him. The
Oh,
party
no,
doesn't start till he walks in.
Gonad, the party was everyone climbing onto Gonad's back while he slayed dragons. And then when we got to town, everyone was running from Gonad because he's just like eating dogs and just destroying everything. He was a douchebag. But it was a fun character to play.
Chaotic neutral barbarian, just so you guys know.
Yeah. The thing is, though, okay, have you guys ever heard of something what they call? This one guy wrote something on the internet. It was called the Geeks.
The geek what? Oh God, he dropped out.
Yeah,
Right in the middle of the sentence.
Before he comes back, I didn't want to interrupt him. He sounded like he was built to a point, but now that he's disappeared, we got to fill time. When you talk about building your characters separately and coming together as a team, you brought up the chaotic evil example.
Mm-hmm.
I actually make right now. My team is kind of, we're not playing, but we're all creating characters. We're all doing things. I'm trying to get the campaign ramped up, ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
They're filling out questions so I can build hooks for them in the story. And if I don't like something, and I'm like, it's going to clash with the party, send revision. I'm like, you need to change this. You need to tweak it.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I definitely am one for setting ground rules when it comes to playing a campaign. Oh, he dropped out too?
Yeah.
God damn it. Everyone's dropping out. Everyone says something and then they drop out.
Well, I'm still here.
I
I have a
that.
phone, but I don't know how grand it will be with just me and you. I'll go ahead and make it though.
What was it?
So I have a point to make, but I don't know how grand it would be with just me and you. But I'll go ahead and make it.
Go ahead.
Part of it comes on the player. I mean, it's a team effort. The DM, the player, everyone. Because you were saying, like John O'Connor said, it's the GM's guide or the GM's, role to take upon things and make things fit. Hey, Brian. Hey, John. Anyway, like he was saying, like it's the GM's role to make everything fit, but at the same time, it's also the player's role. Like when you were saying with the evil characters.
Yeah.
Racy's campaign right now, I'm playing an evil character, and everyone else is either good, chaotic good, or neutral. And we all get along fine because we can put it to a point to where it's not overpowering evil. It's not going to rape the children and burn the town evil. Like my character theme is evil. But
I got cut off there.
You hear me?
Y'all both
Yeah,
did.
I got my
Sorry about
the
this,
chat,
Ron,
the chat shut down for me. I don't even know what you guys heard. But it's like you get this one guy who creates characters in a vacuum. In his mind, he comes up with a character and he's like, he has this wonderful character in his head and he doesn't even think about how it would connect to the party.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, it's like the guy who creates and it's like the guy who, no matter what game he's in, he plays a ninja and all he does is like sneak around in the background and not actually join the party.
And I can honestly say that I've done this too. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure we've all been there. We've all created that one character that just nobody liked. Nobody liked that one character. And my character was a summoner, and I made him out to be an asshole. He was just straight up an asshole simply because he had mental issues. Like he had really bad schizophrenia and depression, and his summon, like his eidolon, that's what they're called, I believe. Yeah, his eidolon actually reflected his dark side, I guess you could call it. Just all his mental struggles, and it was just this grotesque, ugly beast. It was like a snake and a scorpion and all this stuff put together. It sounds a lot worse than it actually is. But nonetheless, I made him out to be this asshole, and he was supposed to, through travels with these people, he was supposed to become a better person. But I realized that they didn't want him around at all. So there was no reason for me, role-playing wise, for him to become a better person because they didn't want him there. So he would just probably either continuously be an asshole and have no reason to actually stay in the party other than the fact that I'm a player in the game. Or I was going to have to roll up a new character. He ended up dying anyway, so I did roll up a new character. I ended up playing a paladin. And that pissed off our thief because, well, we had a thief in the party and I played a paladin, so... But I just honestly think that that is the first step people should try to take after they create the base of their concept. After you think about it and you're like, man, this character's cool. Ask yourself the question, does this fit into a group? If so, how? You don't have to necessarily get along with the group as far as socially goes. You have to get along with them as far as you might get along with someone at work. But some characters just don't. Some characters don't get along with other people.
Or some players.
I'm pretty sure everyone's had that. I've never witnessed this. Well, except for when I was really young, but I haven't witnessed this in a long time. But the thief in the party that steals from the party.
Yeah, it's almost a cliche.
I've heard that guy before.
See, that's kind of like a taboo in my opinion, because what you're doing is you're just causing trouble at the table.
Exactly. Well, I was causing trouble in general. But it was a bunch of...
Well, the thing with that, though...
So it was just all good fun. But if I did it with a group of people I barely knew, yeah, it would cause trouble at the table.
Mm-hmm. Now,
I was about to say the same thing.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. If you talk to a player before the night, hey, is it okay if I try this? It's fun to have that back and forth of, oh damn, I'm a really crappy thief and I got caught the first time out. Especially if your friend is playing the paladin.
Yeah, it can work. It's just you have to understand the group. If you're playing with people you've never played with before, it's probably not a good idea. But if you're playing with close friends and you guys just make fun of each other all the time, and you just shoot insults at each other all the time, then maybe playing a thief and be like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and steal Terry's gold, and then I get away with it, and I just look over at Terry, and I'm just like, fuck you, Terry. Then that would be fine because we're friends, so he would just get some way.
Side note is it's in the game Numenera, part of character generation involves picking a connection to at least one other character in the group. So at the beginning of the game, the characters they're all connected in some way. You don't get that. Okay, you all meet in a tavern and have to figure out a reason why you're suddenly adventuring.
Fate works like that too, doesn't it? Doesn't Fate have something like that?
Yeah, yes, it does.
So. I think that
it has exactly that with the aspects. When you're picking your second or third aspects.
Oh, there you go. You were a bit loud for a second there, Rodney.
I haven't seen. There's different versions of Fate, and I haven't seen all of them. So I don't know if the because like I said, Fate has only recently become its own system. So I think up until recently, there's different games that use the Fate system, and I think different ones utilize them differently. So I don't know what version you're thinking of, but maybe it does.
I think it's a good idea. I personally don't mind having character creation sessions, but some people do. Some people like the idea of coming to the table, everyone made their character separately, and no one knows what the other person's going to play, and that's kind of part of the fun for them, is discovering their character through roleplay. Like, they don't know their background, they don't know their class, they don't know anything until they start playing. Ooh, excuse me. But personally, I find it's easier for me to make a solid character if I have at least one other player from the group to bounce ideas with. And usually we end up intertwining our characters, and I get a more flavorful character because of it.
I think both ideas are really valid. It just depends on, are you tired of doing one or the other? I don't mind playing a campaign where, hey, everybody's known each other for a couple years before we start.
Yeah.
But it kind of cheats you out of some conversations you'd have along the way. So, I mean, it's easier to run the game and play the game if everybody knows each other, but it's more fun if, hi, we're all these people, and, again, 4 individuals become one team.
Yeah.
Someone had brought up the example of the town. I had a really crappy DM a couple years ago go, you all meet in the tavern, and I yelled at him, I'm like, no, I don't. My character's a recovering alcoholic. And he's like, what? So, I mean, it was part of the excitement and enjoyment of going, you're meeting my character for the first time. I'm like, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I wouldn't do anything in a tavern.
Nice. Yeah, the game I'm running on YouTube, I wanted to think of a way to kind of make it to where they were in the same place at the same time for a valid reason, but I didn't want to feel like I was forcing them in a role-playing aspect to it. So I just said that for whether you were in this town already or you were traveling, a snowstorm hit, and really the only good choice would be to stay in this village, because otherwise you're going to have to go pitch a tent during a snowstorm, and it's just not a good idea. That's another topic, is starting a session entirely, like getting the group together. That tends to be pretty hard for me, to be honest. I tend to just throw something together and then we just don't talk about it again. We enjoy the rest of the game, but we don't think about how everybody met, because we just act like it doesn't matter.
The funny thing is, I remember I had this one game that I did a review of once called Feng Shui, which is kind of like based on Hong Kong style action movies. And there was a bit in the GM suggestion section that it basically said, yes, a party that meets, goes on an adventure together, and then decides to stick together for no real reason is a creaky, implausible device. But it's a creaky, implausible device that works, damn it.
It works. It's just, when you look back on it, you're just like, what the hell were we doing? Oh god, I gotta find it. I have it on my computer somewhere on a PDF. This role-playing game, it made me laugh. Y'all could go ahead and talk while I try to find this.
That's why I prefer. Go ahead.
When you try to throw together a really good reason for what, and instead of coming together and becoming adventurers and doing exactly what you want them to do, they say, what the hell, let's fight each other. That's always fun. Not. I've had it happen a few times, and it's never an easy one to recover from.
Yeah, I tend to be really scared of players I haven't played with before or haven't seen play. I'm always like this, waiting for them to just do something insanely dumb. I
The
cannot
dragon
remember.
appears. I want to give it a hug. That dumb?
That's more valid than just running straight at it. Well, no, it's not. But that's more valid than some decisions I've seen.
My buddy Dave tried to climb inside of the dragon's mouth and fight it from the inside.
That sounds like a horrible idea.
Oh yeah, the dragon loved it.
Use this breath weapon. Go ahead, Ryan.
I missed something. I think I kind of cut out on me again.
Oh, we were just we didn't. I don't think we really said anything important.
Oh, you said you were looking for something on PDF, and I wasn't. And
We were all talking. We were all talking smack about you.
Yeah, we don't like you, Brian.
I knew it. I always knew it.
No, it's just, God dang it. It's like a really simple system that makes fun of D&D. Oh, I remember what it's called. It's called Murder Hobos. I gotta find it though.
Murder
Hobo, yes.
I gotta find it. I don't, because I want to remember. I can't remember what the slogan was.
I believe it's isn't it pay what you want?
Yeah. I'll just look it up.
If you want to look for a funny game, and I don't think it was ever meant to be actually played, but it's a funny game. It's called Kill Puppies for Satan.
Wow. Okay, here it is.
Yeah.
It says Murder Hobos, a tabletop RPG of adventurers who kill things and take their stuff. Because that is essentially what D&D is. But that's what it feels like when you play it traditionally. You just go,
Right, that's the
thing, and you take stuff.
Right. So the thing is, there's this game out there called Kill Puppies for Satan, and you read it, and you realize that it is kind of making fun of that one type of player who really just will commit horrible petty atrocities for his own temporary gain. You know, and portrays them as sad, fucked up losers. You know.
I think the worst experience I've ever had with a player, we were introducing him, and he really wanted to play. But we opened up the books, and I'm like, okay, everyone's going to make a character together, because they didn't know what they were doing, so we did it as a group. And I was just like, what do you want to play? And he said, I want to cast magic. And I was like, okay, so you could be a wizard or a sorcerer. And he's like, what's the difference? And I was like, I told him those few differences about the wizard and sorcerer, and he ends up picking the sorcerer because he thought it sounded cooler. And then I was like, okay, now what race do you want to play? And he's like, what race is the best for playing a sorcerer? And I just went like this. I was just like, this is going to be a long day. I was just like, this is too much video game converting to role-playing. Like, when you ask me what race is best for playing a sorcerer, there's a horrible question to ask.
Some people just come from a video game background and they have to learn the differences. I mean, it's not. I talked to one guy who was going to play Pathfinder for the first time, and he was asking what would be the best feats to choose for boss fights.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's fine if they will understand after you explain it to them, but he was so committed. He was just like, I want to do the most damage in the party, so what race is going to be best for doing the most damage? And I was just like, just play whatever you want, man. I was like,
I think it's because you asked the wrong questions. You need to ask questions about his character, about the motivation, and why he's going on adventures and stuff like that. Hopefully, that can lead him into a slightly better state of mind. But because if you,
it broke down to what race do you want to play? That's what's sad. Because I tried to ask a couple different questions, and then there was another player in the party. He actually role played better, but it doesn't make sense because I asked him what he wanted to do, and he said, I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm going to play me if I was in a fantasy world. And I was like, you know what? That's not that bad, I guess. So, you know, his player name and his character name were exactly the same.
And
And
that's pretty bad.
yeah. Yeah, he basically did that so that he didn't have to put a lot of work into how he was going to play his character.
I don't know. It's like sometimes it works. It's like some games, like your D&D style game, I would create a first level character with minimal background, and I would focus mainly on the stats and what they can do, because it's like there's a quote by Gary Gygax. He once said, "Character background is levels 1 through 6." Right? And I thought that was kind of cool. It was like he was like, because you create a minimal background. He's a fighter. He's a mage, and then like someone comes up with their epic backstory and says, "Oh well, here's his history and all the horrible things." Like, no, the horrible things are about to happen to him. He's a starting adventurer, So some games you want epic backstory, but yeah, some games I think you want the epic backstory, but some games you just want to make a first level guy and start running.
Well, I personally prefer that people don't know, like they didn't go through a lot. I understand that there's some things that your character could have went through, but it's like that video I did. What's level 1 to you? Like I don't come to the table expecting to see the dwarven fighter be a 50-year-old. Well, you could be 50-year-old. That's fine, but like be this 50-year-old man who has seen a lot of war and he's been on the front lines plenty of times, and it's just like, in your level 1 fighter.
50 years young for a dwarf.
Well, yeah, I realized that after I said it.
I understand.
Dwarves lived to what? 300 years? 400 years?
Yeah.
50.
I think 250 is when they start getting old.
It's different with different editions.
Yeah.
Yeah, or different games or different worlds.
See, like me personally, if I were to create a fantasy world, I wouldn't do the whole separation of like elves live to be like 1,000 or something. Some settings elves live forever. They don't die until they're killed. They don't actually die of natural causes. I personally wouldn't do that. I like the idea of elves, dwarfs, and humans having roughly the same lifespan and roughly the same as far as like their actual physical capabilities. I like them to be roughly the same. They just come from different backgrounds.
I don't know. I mean, elves should definitely. If you're talking elf, you can only stretch it so far before they stop being an elf. Because they come from Tolkien elves, which were immortal, and at some point you got to think, otherwise you're just creating different races of humans. They stop losing what makes them kind of magical and cool.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. But when it comes to dwarves, part of the charm of dwarves is the fact that they've lived so long. What's that old dwarven proverb? That's a lifetime. That's a long time in middle age for a human.
I personally wouldn't change the life expectancy of the elf and the dwarf, because I agree with you guys, but if I'm looking through different role-playing systems and different books and I see that they live roughly the same time, I'm going to read a little bit more of that system than another one. I wouldn't do what Craig's saying, but I would like to read more about it and actually hear, the idea behind it, actually.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like the idea that race is simply just a choice. I mean, like, I feel that some people might pick a race just because of the benefits. I mean, like, statistically speaking, human is probably the best race to pick in general, because they really don't have any flaws. They get bonus feats, they get bonus skills, or hit points, whatever, I don't know. But everything's a bonus. They don't really get any negatives. I mean, of course, you can pick an elf or a dwarf to get bonuses and the things that are relevant to the class you're going to pick. But that's what I would want to avoid, is the fact that people are picking races simply because it gives them specific stats.
Yeah, but if you bleed away from that, though, that's when you get into like terrible concepts such as, orc bards and gnome barbarians. There's going to be a little bit of it.
I've talked about that.
No
I've talked
more.
about that. So you get that when I talk about. I've talked about that. You get what you call humans with pointy ears syndrome. It's like everyone chooses a race for their stats, and then they end up having no real story difference. They're just part of the party. You know.
That is one reason why I've been looking into possibly, if I'm going to go back and play Pathfinder again, I'll probably run a structured setting. Just because I personally have a really hard time coming up with settings that involve a whole crap load of races. I don't know where to put all those races, because okay, you can take and make great foundations for the major races like halfling, human, elf, dwarf, and orcs if you wanted to, and stuff like that. Get rid of, like, focus in on the primary races that everybody knows, the iconic races. But what about all the other, like, 50 race choices that are available in the books? What do you really do with those races? Do you just tell people don't play these because I don't have a place for them in my world? Or do you just roll with the punches as they pick them and come up with new civilizations as they pick those races?
Well, if you're not comfortable as the GM, if you're not comfortable with having so many races in your world, don't have them, because you have no place for them. You cannot think about you can't think about them in any other way. So you know what? They're not allowed. Done with that.
Because when I picked up Iron Heroes and I started running it, I ran it only humans, and then I found out that when I sat down to create my setting, I was like, man, this is going to be like every other time I'm going to create a setting, and it's just going to be bland. And then I realized I wasn't thinking about race the entire time. I was thinking about culture. I was thinking about the way the culture works and strives, and I didn't have to think about race the entire time. So it made it so much easier on me. Because I didn't have to think how different races affect the culture and how it progresses. Because elves and dwarfs are a lot different than humans. They're all different from each other entirely. I mean, humans are more adaptable, of course, but elves live for a very long time and dwarfs live for quite a long time, so they tend to be a little more stuck in their ways because they're not used to change. That's the whole thing about humans, is humans are the one race that lives one of the shortest lifespans. I think orcs and halflings are right there next to them. But so they're so used to change. Humans change all the time, and elves kind of just stay in their ways over thousands and thousands of years, and dwarves change.
Right, because especially dwarves. Dwarves are portrayed as very, very conservative and very resistant to change. Elves might be more open to change, but they operate on a much different time scale. So, that what is a normal change to us a normal change to them might be like we'd be like radically changing cultures like from generation to generation, and they wouldn't be able to keep up.
And also, like, there's a couple questions I have. Because of the fact that elves live so long, do they procreate less? Are
I recently talked about this actually on the on one of my videos. If it's a homebrew supplement for the 3.5 system, but the Book of Erotic Fantasy actually gave the conception chart of possibilities, and elf had like a 5% chance of actually conceiving. The older lived races didn't have to conceive as often to keep their numbers up. So
yeah, see, that's what I was thinking. I was like, if they live that long, they wouldn't be like naturally they would adapt to that.
The problem is that doesn't make any type of sense because they can get hit by an extension level event and they won't be able to survive as well as say as a human being. Because if human beings are spread out throughout a continent and their disease hits them, fine, you just wiped out possibly in that area, and then human beings, I mean, human beings from another continent can still survive. The fact that they're so small makes them weaker, you know, in that sense. So yeah, that really doesn't make sense to me.
Well, the only thing I'm saying is, like, if you live to be 700 and you're having kids as often as humans, but over a period of 700 years, then your civilization's going to just explode.
Right. So I'm saying it would be. I wouldn't think of it as often. Like you could say something like that.
They have a mating season.
Well, I was about to even say that, Rodney. I was like, because then it's
maybe they're only fertile once. Maybe they're only fertile like once a year, and even then they can decide, okay, we'll just abstain during that month because we don't feel like having kids right now. You know, we've already have. You know.
Yeah, they just go behind the shed for that month.
I mean, it could even be worse because it could be they have a mating period, not a season, but a period of time in their age when they can be sexual. They can procreate.
It's just kind of weird to think about it that way. You know, I don't think about elves and dwarves rubbing against my leg like a cat. Meow. I get what you're saying, but it's kind of weird to talk about it that way too, because I don't want to be around the horny elf. I don't want to be around the horny dwarf because it's time for the.
I picture a dwarf like humping someone's leg.
Oh,
just,
get off my leg!
Especially if you have a beard.
Because like he just looks up looks up at you, and you look down at him, and like it's not like a dog. It's like, what do you do? He's just like, I'll give you the hammer.
Sir, I beg your attention, but I'm going to hump your leg.
I'm Bob Barker. Always remember to get your dwarves spayed or neutered.
If you know, the funny thing is, it would actually kind of maybe explain like half elves, like some like male elf decides to have a fling with a female human and says, "Wait a minute, you were fertile?" And like, yeah, they're always kind of fertile. Like, how? What? Really? You know, not realizing that.
That actually could be pretty unique. Just my whole thing with high fantasy settings recently has been magic items. I love magic items. I just don't like them as another way to get stats in the game. I hate that. And I almost feel like if you play Pathfinder and you use the monster manual straight out of the book, you can't not give magic items the way they suggest.
Oh shit. I gotta go.
Alright. I've been trying to find a way around it, and like I've thought about playing E6, and I've thought about just house ruling it to where instead of getting magic items, you get bonuses, but I just don't know how to make it flavorful.
You know, there's a game that I haven't played in a long time, but I've got it over there. It's called Earth Dawn, and all magic items. It's like the thing about Earth Dawn is names is a big part of the background of the setting, and all magic items have names. So you'll find a magic item, you won't be able to use it until you find out its name, and then you have to research it and find out its history. And as you do that, you start unlocking more and more abilities to it. So it's like every magic item is a research project, and every magic item has its own history and backstory. So I thought that was kind of fascinating.
That does sound pretty awesome. But you were about to say something, Rodney? Is he frozen?
Magic item Dungeon Master's Guide 2 has the inherent bonus where because of the way the math is in 4th edition, you really have to give out magic items. But instead of giving out magic items, say whatever, at 3rd level you're supposed to get a +1 magic item at least, because if not you fall behind. Then you just give them that +1, but that +1 doesn't count as a magic item. So this way, at your leisure, you can introduce magic items, and this way magic items can be special again.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'd have to look at the rules for that because I know that there are certain kind of magic items. Like, okay, like I started playing with I don't know if you'd call them min-maxers or if you'd call them whatever you want to call them, but they were, I guess the best way to say it is optimizers. Like, they wouldn't play a character unless they optimized it. And the reasoning for this was because why wouldn't you? And to be honest, that somewhat makes sense. I mean, like, of course there are certain things that I take no matter what. Like, I'll take a sword and a shield on a paladin any day over any other weapon. Sword and a shield is just how I imagine my paladins. I know that picking a two-handed greatsword is probably the best way to go because after you get all these certain feats, you're just a monster, but I'd just rather have a shield. And, but by playing with them, like, a couple of the magic items that seemed relevant every time we played was Cloak of Resilience, which just added to your saving throws, and then you got like a headband of whatever stat you wanted, and then that increased as you went up in levels. But I guess I can honestly see that as an inherent bonus that you just give away. Like, but
I saw that. Well, the inherent bonuses were just to AC and armor.
Really?
Yeah, it was just done with AC and armor. Then all the other magic items you can introduce at your, whenever you feel like it. This way, it can feel. This way, you can get rid of Magic Walmart. That's what you want to do.
Yeah, the main thing I want to do is never make it to where you walk into a city and there's a guy who creates magic items for you. That's not my kind of fantasy setting. I can't do it.
I don't know. I played. There's one called Taloslanta, where it's like magic is a very high magic, very highly magical setting. And there's this one city called Simril that's obsessed with magic. They got magical schools, magical colleges, all that sort of thing. And you could probably go to stores and buy like a buttload of magic items from the store, and it's probably stuff that the students created, and it's like, but it's all simple minor stuff. It all has to do with it's not like the really powerful ones are still going to be special, but in some areas you're going to find you know what I mean?
It's just, my thing is that, like, whenever magic items start to become, whenever magic itself becomes commonplace, like, very commonplace, I stop feeling like I'm playing a role-playing game. I start to think about all the video games I played that were similar to this. That's exactly where my mind goes. I start thinking of World of Warcraft. I start thinking of League of Legends. I start thinking of all these different video games. And I can't stop myself from thinking of these video games. So I try to stay away from those kind of settings. Just because I don't feel I'm enjoying myself as a role player.
Well, as far as magic items are concerned, in my world, on a scale of 1 to 10, they're about a 7. And I see what you're saying, but I always make my players build a relationship with the person making magic items. So if you want something a little more powerful, or it does this thing special, you have to build a relationship. They're like a handgun store. They're not just going to give it to you because, oh, you have the money. There's liabilities they have to take on as a company. if your magic item killed the lord of the town, they're going to be at blame as much as you are. So they're really conservative about who they sell to.
Yeah, I could kind of see that. I'm not really all that opposed to magic items being crafted. It's just I really don't know how to explain it. I kind of just prefer magic items to be these things that you don't need ever. Like, they're irrelevant. They're more along the lines these cool things that you just happen to find and they give these cool effects. But also sometimes maybe they don't give cool effects, or maybe the cool effects is just a way for you to actually use them, but they're using you. I really like the idea of cursed magic items. My buddy, he always talks about he wants to play in a campaign at least once where he's going to get basically like one of those gauntlets, and there'll just be this huge gauntlet, and it's got an eye on the back, and it speaks to him. And he wants it to play off of his wants and needs, you know. And then he wants to roleplay that way. And I personally respect that more than someone saying, I want a +2 sword. Because there's just no flavor to a +2 sword.
But what are his wants and needs?
Huh?
What are his wants and needs?
Oh, it would be dependent upon what character he plays. I think it'd be more along the lines like it's a character who's probably been through a rough past or something, and like he's trying to work through it, but then the item just manipulates him. Something along those lines. I never really sat down and talked to him about the
Because it would be a real dickhead move. It says, my wants and needs is a +2 now.
No, it would be completely up to the DM. Like, essentially, the DM would have to pretend he's the magic item and work off of the player based on how the player's been acting throughout the campaign.
You know, that just reminded me. There was a Kickstarter for a role-playing game in where you play the magic item, and the welders are just easily used up. You don't give a damn about the welders. They died left and right, but the magic item will get passed on eventually.
Huh. I don't personally think I could play that game, but I mean that's definitely unique and different. I think what I really want to play is something like an action role-playing game, something where it's not just, what do you do this turn? Well, I attack. Okay, how do you attack? Well, by the limitations of the rules, I swing my sword. Okay.
There's a few games out there that give bonuses for power stunts. If you just like, you get bonuses for describing it in a cool way.
Yeah. Well, I've been reading through Iron Heroes, obviously. I'm running it, and the cool thing that I love about it, and give me 1 second, actually, someone's coming in. Sorry about that. But what I liked about it was, and I don't know if you can actually do this in D&D or Pathfinder without house rolling. You could easily house roll it. But the thing is that you could utilize your skills in combat, and then you can also take negatives to certain things in order to get positive to other things. Like you could take a -2 to hit in order to get a +1 to damage, which is like, you know, if you don't already have power hit or power attack, then it's just a crappy replacement. But it's an option there for you. And then there's things where you can increase your defense to take negatives to attack, or take negatives to defense to get increased to attack. Stuff like that. There's just small things where you get to add a little more flavor to combat, mechanically and for fluff reasons. Because, in my opinion, it doesn't matter if I describe my attack a different way if it's going to do the exact same thing. What is the point of me saying that I do something cool with my sword if it's going to do exactly what I would do with my sword if I attack normally?
I thought somebody else was gonna pick
Think a
up
lot.
after there.
No, I think a lot of that happens. At least for me, a lot of that happens with is just for me, it's rules heavy systems. So many things are so described. You're afraid to actually speak up and say something, and then be worried about, oh well, that's a feat. You can't do this. Oh no, wait, that's a class ability. You can't do this. But I prefer much rules lighter system.
I personally prefer rules heavy because I feel it gives a good foundation. And you don't have to, and I personally do like the idea of an equalness in the party, like a balance. I do like the idea of balance. There is no point in picking a class if it sucks. There just isn't. I mean, you can for fluff reasons, but you're going to fall off. You're going to fall behind, and you're not going to really be doing much, and you're not going to be adding much to the game. And that's what I believe is one downfall of playing rules heavy, because it tends to be found more often in rules heavy that certain choices are bad. Whereas rules light, from what I've played in rules light, it seems like it doesn't matter what you play, just play it, and then the rules are just there to progress the story.
Well, on the topic of playing an underpowered character, my group used to roll stats, and it was, if some arbitrary number, if it's lower than this, re-roll, and, you can go up to this much. Well, I had two guys, and we were all using the same dice, so none of them were loaded, and they just were naturally lucky, and they had, I think, like 4 18s each on their pages.
Oh, God.
I had 13 14s, and we all rolled the same dice.
Yeah, see, like...
But I didn't want to re-roll my character. But you talk about the underpowered character. Everybody remembers what my character said and did. Now, they got their ass handed to them more times than not, but they all remembered how it happened because I was always the life of the party. If you go into a thing going, well, I want to be the strongest and the toughest, you're going to be disappointed more times than not. You go in there just to have a good time, then you're going to have a good time.
But I'm the type of player that I actually I separate mechanics from roleplay and then I push them back together. That's why I can't I don't like rules light, because I can't enjoy reading the rules book. There's nothing to read after you understand the rules. Once you know the rules, you just do nothing but play. I personally do prefer sitting around for 2 hours putting a character together. It's fun for me. That's why I created the group alongside the YouTube RPG Brigade, to where people can just talk about mechanics. Because not that it was often, but every once in a while, if I posted something purely about mechanics, one of two things would happen. Either, somebody would say, I don't, they would shoot down the fact that I was talking about mechanics, or it would get to the point where they would just talk about how fluff, or how role-playing was way more important than mechanics. And I believe both are important aspects of the game. I enjoy both parts of the game. So I don't think one is, evil, or one is worse than the other. I mean, if you like rules light, you like rules light. If you like rules heavy, you like rules heavy. But both people can be equally as good role players. And as far as stats go, I do get a little bit butthurt when my stats are way below everyone else's. It does put a little bit of a lag on how I roleplay, because I'm just sitting there, I'm just like, I have no control over what my character is. I rolled dice, and I got nothing near what I had for a concept. Because when you roll dice, you should probably roll your dice before you come up with your character's concept. Simply because stats will get in the way, depending on what your concept is. Because sometimes my concept does include how he fights. And if I roll bad stats, he's not much of a fighter. So there's no point for me to have this concept of how good he is at a certain aspect of fighting. I do prefer point buy, just for one, it's easier. You don't have to argue. Everybody knows how it works. And with a point buy calculator, it's a lot faster too. So.
Well, as a DM, I agree with you completely. You know, you can look through someone's character sheet and go, did you do it right or did you do it incorrectly? As opposed to rolling dice, you got to supervise, make sure nobody's cheating, or just have enough faith in everybody. I do it extremely simple. My group, you just get 82 points, and a point costs a point.
Yeah.
So when I look at their character sheet, I can just pull out the calculator on my phone and be like, all right, 82 points. You're good to go.
Yep.
I think whether you use point buy or rolling the dice, you have to check the sheet either way. But you made a very good point. I hated random rolls. I didn't want nothing to do with it until I tried it and I realized, well, you have to go in there without a concept, because random rolls will determine your concept.
And that's perfectly fine if I'm not in a long-running campaign. If I'm getting into a campaign and I expect it to last for a couple months, I want to have control over what I'm going to play. If somebody just wants to run a one-shot campaign, where it's like, this is, I got the bad guy written up. You guys start off at level 4 in this village, and you guys were hired to do this, and that's the story, that we're going to go through and we're going to kill the wizard or whatever. Then fine, I'll roll my stats. I'm perfectly okay with that, because I'll just sit down, I'll roll my stats, and I'll be like, okay, I can make a perfectly good thief out of this. I'm going to go ahead and roll with a thief, and then I can have fun with that. But if someone's like, hey, everybody roll up characters, bring it to the table, I have this idea for this campaign, and then we'll see where it goes from there. To me, that's like, okay, we're going to play for a little while. I'm going to really put thought into what I'm going to play, how I'm going to play it, so I can enjoy him for longer.
Yeah, but the thing is that each way is equally valid. The reason being is it's very simple. How many one-shot campaigns have turned into? How many one-shot games have turned into campaigns? And how many campaigns fizzle out within 3 sessions? So either way, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm bust my ass creating this character in a point buy system, and this fucker doesn't, it doesn't get done after, it gets done after what, 3 sessions, maybe less. And then the one-shot campaign, the one-shot game turns into a campaign. So you slowly build your character there.
Yeah. I mean, there are ways to get around it. I mean, like,
there's some where you roll it, but then you can customize it afterwards, stuff like that. I mean, there is some wiggle room in between.
Like,
so there are some that are point.
Yeah, I'll work with people. Like, if I see honestly that one person rolled amazing scores, and one person, they have a lot of scores under 10. I'll tell them, I'll be like, all right, you can give those rolls another chance. Whatever they come out to be, though, I suppose we're just going to see where that goes. I'm not opposed.
I personally, when I'm using random rolls for people, when they want to use, I say, you know what, roll your 6. You don't like those 6, you erase them, roll them again. I have no problem with that.
Oh, I personally do the 2 arrays. You roll 2 different arrays of stats, and then you pick the one you want. Because you might a couple of things either happen. You get a really crappy one and a really good one, or Sometimes it even happens where they're both good choices, but one has more even stats, and you wanted to play a character who's a little more balanced in a couple different stats, and then one's, you know, more focused on one stat. So, you know, you get that choice too. So I'm not opposed to when you roll,
But
you get to roll a couple times and then pick the one you want.
now, but when I roll randomly though, I go old school hardcore, roll down the line.
Yeah.
That determines my character.
See, now
I don't arrange later. I just let those rolls determine the character.
I
But
think
sometimes you don't have a concept.
I think I'd have to be put into a situation where I had to do that. I mean, like I'm looking at this right now, like and Alex is he's running D&D. He's running AD&D first edition for us, and we rolled our stats, and I thought my strength was too high. I had like a 9 or no, I had a 11 in strength because none of my rolls were low or something like that. So I was just like, well, I already had an idea of what I wanted this character to be sort of like, and I didn't expect him to have a good strength. So I actually dropped it down to a 7 because he's actually a drug addict and he's weak. So I gave him a 7. I didn't have to do that.
Isn't in AD&D like a 1 or something? The modifier a 1? Or maybe even a 0.
Like, if you look at the sheet here, you get different kind of modifiers for everything. Like, you have to have a really high strength just to get a modifier to your hit. I have a -1, it says, to hit probability, but I don't even know if that is that to see if I actually hit something. I don't know. Because then there's damage adjustment, then there's bin bars, and then there's weight allowance, and then there's open doors, and it's just there's a whole lot on this sheet, just all over the place. And I know that this is like the foundation of role-playing games, but I don't understand how some people say this is the best role-playing game. Like, this is the best way to play is AD&D. I don't know. It's just not my flavor.
At least for me, what I think is because the numbers are so low, they didn't have to worry about much, you know, and they can add things and change things without, you know, having to worry about anything. Like, for example, in 3rd edition, if you make a change to attack of opportunity, how many feats are you going to affect? How many classes are you going to affect? How many situations you're going to affect that? They want nothing to do with that shit. So that's why they stick with AD&D. Some stick to basic. They don't even like AD&D 2. I don't want it. They don't want them. They tolerate AD&D 1.
Like I just prefer modifiers over dice probability. Like because I do prefer believing that I have at least somewhat control over what my character can do. Because if I see myself as this master thief, but there's no way within the rules that I can make him better at being a thief than anyone else who plays a thief, then really I'm just playing that game's version of a thief instead of my version of a thief. That's how I feel about it. I feel like I'm just grabbing the thief right out of the book, putting it on the table and saying, I'm going to play this, I guess.
Hey guys, I'm heading out for right now. I've been enjoying this, but I mean I gotta head out for now.
You're all right. I actually don't know
see you guys.
what's been going on.
It was nice to talk to you, man.
See you, man. Is there even a timer on here?
Not that I can
Hey.
see.
They usually last for 4 hours, and then they kick you out.
Okay, well, it's been a little over an hour because I see where I wrote something in the chat, and it says 7:30. But But yeah, I mainly opened this up just because I had nothing else to do and I didn't feel like playing video games. So I thought I would just open this up and just bullshit with y'all
They're
about.
supposed to give you a timer or something, but at least I'm surprised they didn't.
I mean, I could probably go to YouTube and check, but I'm not worried about it.
Hey, I'm just glad that you opened this up. These last couple of weeks, I've been trying to become more active in the community, and just doing videos isn't. You got to have dialogue with individuals. So I'm glad you gave me this chance.
Yeah,
I know it was open to everybody.
I'm gonna try to do this a little more often. I don't know how often. I'm not gonna make any promises, but I would like to do this every once in a while. Essentially, whenever I have a topic that I would love to talk about. And I feel that posting it on the brigade just isn't enough. I'll probably just open this up because I actually have over here a list of things. I could probably bring a couple of them up right now. Like I planned on doing a video on basically people making Mary Sue characters. Essentially what they're doing is they're just making what they believe to be what they want to be. Essentially, that's what I looked into. The original definition of a Mary Sue is when someone writes a character that they wish they could be because it's the most perfect thing in the world and they wish they were perfect. And I have seen that in role-playing games before. I have seen people just make that character that really doesn't have any flavor. It just sounds like someone's really just trying to be perfect. I don't know how else to put it.
That happens in both ends, on both sides of the screen. Sometimes GM NPCs. I don't like the idea of GM NPCs at all. I don't think you should be playing the game while you're running it.
Oh, I know.
And those can
like GM's making
GM
the party.
Yeah. And I hate those.
Babysitters. That's what we used to call them.
I've actually had a few NPCs, and they would go along with the party. They were never the babysitter, though. Half the time, they just have one or two skills the party didn't have, but they were always a liability to have around. They were never going to outshine the group except for that one particular skill, and it was never combat or casting. They were there, hey, we need someone who can pick a lock because we're going to go rob somebody. Well, that was the only thing they were good at. And, a lot of the times I would use experts, not even rogues, the expert at lock picking. Because, they're good at sneaking around, they're good at, picking the lock. But I'm the DM, I control, are you going to get caught or not? And at that point it becomes, your babysitter becomes your liability, and you have to protect them because your mission's still going on.
So it's like you're making them the babysitters now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that because all you're doing is covering your basics. Woe is the GM that has that NPC with a huge fucking backstory. Then you're in big trouble.
I've only witnessed that. No, I've witnessed it twice, but there was only once when it was really bad, and it was one of my first experiences role-playing. And it was okay because we were just playing just to play. It was casual. I don't even think we were using the rules correctly for GURPS. And our GM, he had this character that he used to play in his game, but I guess he moved. I believe it's because he moved or something and he wasn't with his old group. I don't know. But for whatever reason, he couldn't play his character anymore, and he was the only one that knew the game enough to GM. So he ran it for us, and we were all kids. So he had his character go along to kind of show us the ropes, I guess. It kind of was weird, though, because it did seem like he was our leader, which is kind of unfair to the players, because some GMs justify it as, they have to put all this work into the campaign, they have to do all this and that, so why can't they have fun too? And I'm like, well, if you're not having fun just being a regular GM, then maybe you should stop being a GM, because I personally have fun putting together campaigns and then seeing my players run through it. I find myself laughing and smiling a lot just because I see that everyone's having fun, and I'm allowing them to have fun. That's my payment. When everyone's having fun, I feel like I'm doing something amazing. Even if the story's not that good. Yeah.
But
that's but
the characters with the 6 pages of background story that are NPCs, I'm not opposed to doing that, but in every case where I've had that happen, one of my favorite NPCs ever to play was Dixon Snowfox, and he had a huge background, but he never talked about it. He was a stationary character. You know, if you wanted to go talk to him, he was there, and so he had answers to questions, but he never monologued. He was always there if you wanted to have a conversation. You know, so you're, as a DM, having that character with a huge background, you just got to make sure not to monologue. You know, because it does become irritating when you're in the dungeon and everyone's scared, but you have that one asshole NPC. Well, this is nothing like the trials of the Temple of Nightmares. It's like, nobody wants to hear about a past adventure. They want to be part of the one that's currently going on.
yeah.
I try never to use the NPC when they are. Sometimes it happens. A player leaves, he can't show up for the day, and now I'm stuck with this freaking character. So what happens? Usually, when I describe it, it's like they ask me, "Okay, what about this guy's character? What is he doing? He's handling the other 50 NPCs that you're not dealing with. Stop asking for him. He's not gonna freaking help you right now." Because I hate that, and this happens with my players. Is that when they cannot think of anything, they want help from above, and I totally disagree with that. It's like, dude, it's your game. Learn how to. I'm not gonna figure it out for you.
I've actually never had that problem. I've never had anyone like ask me for help. Now I have got to the point where nothing was happening, so I fed them like seeds. I've had to do that before, like give them hints. But I've never literally had them ask me for help.
I've had that happen, and it's irritating. I had one player who just wanted to turn D&D into a giant hangout, and I had 3 other people who came to play. And I'm the kind of DM that I spend a week writing hooks for everybody. So if someone can't show up, 90% of the time I cancel, because I can't play the story that I wrote out. And I would write their character hooks, and she would just stand there like a deer in headlights. Well, what do you want me to do? Well, what does your character want to do? I don't know. Well, what would make the game go faster? I'm like, you realize you're playing a role-playing game, not a video game.
What would make the game go faster? For you to make up your mind.
That's the reason why I stopped. That's the reason why I stopped doing that, because I've hit that with so many times. It's like, you know what? No more story hooks for characters. This is a group. It's a group story. So if one motherfucker's not around or 2 are not around, I can continue to play. If the whole group is not around, it doesn't matter, because now if a new group comes in, I can still continue playing, because now they're trying to figure out what this one character is doing. Being, the NPC, the main villain, because I just got so fed up with that. I used to do plot lines, and one of the fun things I used to like is when they would destroy the plot line, then I have to go back and work with that. And I realized, you know what, plot lines suck. So I decided just to concentrate on the NPC and the organization within the NPC. So this way, I no longer have to worry about plot lines anymore at all.
Yeah, one thing I've decided is a lot of people will put together a story ahead of time, and that's fine. But this is where like newer DMs will sometimes fall into the trap of railroading. And what I do, and there's different ways to do it. I know some people who take stories that never happen and put them in the drawer for later. I go ahead and let them go without the players. Like, okay, you come to this village and you hear about these bandits that have been, you know, attacking caravans on the roads. And then the players are like, well, that doesn't sound all that interesting. We're just going to go do something else. And I'm like, okay, well, these bandits are still attacking caravans on the roads. So that's going to continuously go on. I'm going to put thought into that. I'm going to figure out what these bandits are going to, in the long run, do. And whether, this comes up in the campaign again or not, I'm going to have it in my notes just in case it comes relevant again. Because I'm doing the whole living world thing instead of the whole, hey, here's a story idea. We don't want that. Oh, well, maybe we'll try it tomorrow. I just personally can't do it. I mean, I'm not saying it's horrible. If you know a good way of doing that, then do it. But me personally, if they don't take a hook, then that hook is still there. And
well, yeah, I used to do that, and I got bored with it. I mean, I used to have the story, and then it really didn't matter. It really didn't matter what choice they made. They're always gonna meet Tom, Dick, and Kilgore, the Unliving, in that particular order every time. And that was the illusion and choice. I used to do that every freaking time, but I got bored with that. So then I started to do plot points, and they would ruin the plot points, but then I have to go back and later and fix the plot points. But then I realized that was just too much work, and I just realized, you know what? Let me just deal with the motivation of the NPC, the organization, and the tools at this NPC's disposal. And this way I can better react to what the players are doing.
Yeah, like, I have a really big plan for the Heroes of Farsi campaign I'm running right now. And I highly doubt that they're not going to take the hooks because I just don't see a reason to. But you never know with players. Players sometimes just, not even on purpose, they'll destroy your game. And you just have to roll with it. But me, personally, I'm just going to allow the timeline to continue. They went somewhere else on the timeline, but that timeline is going to keep going. And that's just how I plan to run my campaign because, they had a chance to save this village. Now the village is destroyed when they come back. Hey, what happened? Well, I told you that you heard rumors about, bandits, blah, 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 and they took over the village, and now it's a bandit village. I don't know. Something like that.
That's always a great idea. I mean, you want to make your world feel like it's lived in. Like if we all missed a game night, the DM could go, well, you guys all slept in for a week. I don't do that, but you should have that feeling where if we never went to this town, commerce is still happening, town rumors are still happening. This world is lived in. It's not just a background for these players to, oh, you need help. I mean, so it's always a great idea to do that. As far as hooks, now, when I write up my character hooks, things like, hey, catch on to this, I write about 20 or 30 of them, and I just scatter them out. Now, whichever one they bite onto is the one that I keep writing for. But whatever villain my villain, I'll start working on way before I ever take on a plot hook. But it's nice that if your players wrote up, hey, my character really loves their grandmother. Well, I'm playing this piece of shit sorcerer who has an abundance of money. He brought your grandmother out to this town. Now he's holding her kid, captive because you've ruined his business. So I really like to bring in the players with the NPCs. The NPC was doing something, the player stopped it. Well, now the hook is, okay, well, they figured out what you liked and they brought it here and now they're threatening it.
Actually, that is a pretty good way of doing that because that happened with my recent game. These are two examples of two different ways of dealing with hooks. I let the hook blow up in their face at the very beginning of the game. In other words, I take a page out of Michael Bay. A hook happens and is right in front of your face, and you have no choice. You have to deal with it. The second hook, they didn't bite. The first one it wasn't subtle. They just knew that their memories were altered. somehow. Something was wrong with the city. And eventually they found out that why is there only one hospital in all the 5 boroughs of New York? Someone did a web search for that attracted attention. And once they saw the type of attention they got, they tried to leave New York. So there goes the hospital idea out the window. There was nothing I could do about that.
Yeah.
You know. So now I have myself coming up with stuff on the fly. Stuff that had not so much on the fly because I had it in the background in my mind that I haven't developed yet. So right now that's what they're dealing with.
Yeah. And that's actually fairly common because you give them this idea and they're like, why wouldn't they take it? And then they just destroy it in a logical way. It's just like, okay, we're going to start searching on the internet about this thing. Oh, well, you start seeing a van outside that's never been there before, like someone's watching you. And they're just like, well, we got to get the hell out of here. And it's just like, that actually kind of makes sense. No, shit.
When you have to think on the fly, I've had that happen more times than I'd like to admit, where you're like, ah, crap, they didn't take the hook. And that was kind of the idea of the night. I have a folder of NPCs of varying levels that they were either the main villain or they were just a commoner. Doesn't matter what they were in the past. I just kind of scratch out their name after the first use. And so, well, we're going to go here, and we want to talk to so-and-so. I have a character sheet already ready to go. Once a character sheet serves me the first time, it loses its name, sex, and most of the time its race. But I keep its skills in class so I can reuse it later if I have to think on the fly, if I have to hit the oh shit button.
I've actually never written up, well, it depends on what you mean by NPC. Like, I've never written up an NPC character sheet unless it's someone I intend for them to fight.
I've never done it either. I just reskin. It's like, okay, Kilgore is this level 7 creature. We're done.
But
I don't like skin. I know it's a personal choice, but I like to take the time to create the character sheet of important NPCs they're going to meet. And that's actually saved my ass a lot of times because, well, I want to steal something from them. And instead of me having to use Plot Shield to go, no, it didn't happen, I can legitimately say with confidence, I roll my dice, no, they caught you. And I think if you've been playing with the same group for a while, they can kind of tell when you have that confidence of my math adds up and he's lying, but he's the DM, so we have to listen.
See, what I do is I take the level that the PCs are into consideration, and I take into consideration who they're interacting with, and then I create bonuses off of that. So I'm like, so it could be like let's say he needs to roll sense motive, and they're actually talking to the mayor of this town. The mayor is going to have a pretty nice sense motive check, in my opinion. I would say you would need to. And the players are level 4, so I take that in consideration. That if the mayor is on par with them, then he would have 4 ranks, and then he would have a decent charisma, so at least a +2. So there's 6 right off the bat, and then give him the +3 if it's Pathfinder, so that's +9. So in my head, I'm already thinking +9. I roll the dice, add 9 to it, and then I go from there. I usually don't need the physical character sheet in front of me for bonuses. I mean,
what I do,
well, if it's
usually what I do is like, yeah, you want to bluff with him? Sure. Let me see your bluff. Okay, this guy has a -2. I'm done.
But I don't know. It's different for everybody. Like some people some people can't think in numbers like I do. I think in numbers when I play the game quite often. If I don't think Alex is watching this, or I don't even know if he's going to watch this, but if he were, he could tell you that in one of his games, he attacked my character twice. And after he attacked me twice, no, after I attacked his character twice, and I missed once and hit once, I knew the character's armor class right off the bat. I was just, because I took into consideration what level we were, I took into consideration what we were fighting, and I also knew what I rolled. So it was like a 6-point difference. So I got it right on the head because I just did all the math in my head. I was just like, oh, the armor class is 22. He's just like, you metagaming. And
I don't mind if the players find out the armor class of a monster. I don't mind that, but I don't tell them. I don't give them that goal. So it's another little thing figured out during the night.
Like, I don't tell players armor class or hit points. I do the whole thing from 4th edition where I tell them, like, when they get to have hit points, in a way, like, through fluff, I tell them that, you know, the opponent's starting to look a little weary. You know, they're starting to look a little down. Just to give them an idea that they're getting them pretty far down in hit points. I don't tell them the actual number, but I also realize that them knowing the actual numbers only really affects as far as well, no, hit points do affect things, because if they know how much hit points the thing has left, then they're probably more willing to take more chances. Because if it's only got 8 hit points, then that's roughly 1 attack. You're willing to put yourself into danger to get that 1 attack off. But if, you know, I'm like, well, he's still got a couple of hits left in him, then, you know, they might be a little weary about it. Or if I say he looks a little down, but you're not entirely sure, I don't know.
Oh yeah, when it comes to hit points, you never tell them, but you tell them he's bleeding here, he's coughing up a little blood. You know, you make it a little more gruesome, and especially I make my players, where do you try to hit him at? What do you try to do? So as he gets lower and lower, those hits they're making are doing more damage. It's more graphic. So they feel the adrenaline, they're getting closer, but they don't know how much more of a risk they need to be taking.
The main reason I want to play in a campaign where someone's running an action-based system is because when it comes to role-playing, I love role-playing. But when it comes to combat, it's so stale because I don't play casters. I started playing half-casters recently just so I can feel like I'm doing something more than attacking. You know, because it's a little bit different than playing a video game where you can actually see your attacks, and, you know, moving around and attacking at the same time is a little bit different in a video game. In this, it's just like, you grab your piece, put it here, and then you say, I rolled to attack. I mean, sure, you can put fluff on top of it, but I don't really feel like I'm doing anything different. It's the same mechanic every single time I attack, and it gets really boring. That's why I would like to play a game where I can actually make strategical, I have strategical options given to me in the rules, other than placement and when to attack and when not to attack. Just because I hate combat, I really do. As a player, I don't like combat. I'm just sitting there, and it's like, Craig, it's your turn. Craig, it's your. Oh, it's my turn. I always don't pay attention in combat because it's boring. It is so boring because nothing's happening other than people just attack. All right, next turn, attack. Next turn, move, attack. It's just like, come on, guys. Really? This is the game we play? I can say that playing a paladin's a lot of fun, though. You see a horde of undead creatures. I walk in the middle of them and cast and use my aura, and then they all die. I mean, that just makes me feel amazing. I don't know why. Anytime I'm playing a paladin and there's an undead monster, I just feel like a total badass.
Hey guys, I gotta go. Someone just showed up. I have to leave for work right now, so I'll talk to you guys later.
Oh, you're fine, dude. We'll probably
All right,
just end it.
have a good one.
All right, see ya.
All right.
You're still
Frank,
muted. Oh, there you go.
but you tried 4th edition. What did you think about it?
I haven't really got a chance to play it that much. I've DM'd it, and to be honest, I like DMing it because it's easy as hell to DM. I think I played it once, and I personally like powers. I honestly do like powers. I feel like it might get a little overbearing when there's a lot to pick from, but overall, it's a lot better than just attacking.
Yeah, there's because combat can get really lengthy in D&D 4th edition. So there's from Sly Flourish, I forgot his name. It's the website from Mike Shea.
Yeah.
And what he suggests is the hell with it. Just put up defenses up. Load up all the defensive. Let them go to town. To speed up combat.
One thing that I did find, and I find that I didn't actually like it. It was I don't remember what it was called, but it's a big chart, and depending on what level and what kind of monster you're fighting, whether it was a brute or a non-brute or a minion or whatever, it would tell you what the average damage was for those monsters at that level. But you got to understand that the average isn't that good when, you know, they could be fighting a wolf or something a lot more powerful within the same level range. It just didn't make much sense to me.
Well, minions, minions do average damage. All minions do average damage. It doesn't matter what type of minions there are. The scary thing about average damage is it's average damage. You're never going to roll any higher, but you're never going to roll any lower.
Well, with this, you get to choose whether you wanted to roll 1d6 or 2d6, I believe. So I rolled 2d6 because it gave you a higher probability, but the modifier was pretty big. The modifier was usually more impacting than the dice rolls.
Yeah. Which power was this? Which class was this?
No, it was I don't even know if my book bag's in here. I could literally show you the chart. PhD&D, you know, Kirk, he was talking
he was talking about the GM cheat sheet from
yeah, like
Sly Flourish.
No. This was from God dang it, what's his name? He runs the game every year. He's bald.
Chris Perkins?
Chris Perkins, yes. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name. But yeah, Chris Perkins put it out, and it was this chart, and it gave you average rolls. You roll either 1d6 or 2d6. It was up to you, and then you add the bonus to it.
Right.
And then what you were also supposed to do with this chart is you're supposed to half monster life, because what it did is it made them attack harder, but they had less life.
Yeah, he wanted to speed up combat. Yeah, I remember that.
It did speed up combat, but your players died often. Or at least my players died often. It might have been just because they didn't know how to play the game. I don't know.
It's possibly because they didn't know how to play the game. Because when I have my players, I let them know. The best thing to do in any class-based system is to concentrate your firepower on one NPC at a time. And you will quickly wipe out the NPC when everyone concentrates. And they learned that very quickly with D&D 4th, and they wiped out a solo in not even one turn.
So they used like wolf pack tactics.
Yeah, and that was my fault because, you know, one thing about solos is Don't use them solo. They're horrible by themselves. They really are. They just suck. You know, have at least two creatures with them. Hopefully, maybe because my next encounter I was gonna throw was a solo with two controllers, two leader controllers.
Well,
Two elite leaders to give them extra actions.
Something cool I could think off of that is like maybe you have the big bad, and he would be the solo that they have to fight, and then you just after a certain amount of rounds or something you figured out, but like have waves of minions actually come in.
Yeah.
They only have to get hit once, but that actually takes damage off of the main boss, and they actually have to focus on these minions now.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do with the last boss fight. Unfortunately, I made the mistake of saying, okay, these creatures are gonna come in the second turn. They should have come in within the second round because he got wiped out by round 4.
Yeah, I personally have no problem with 4th edition. It's just a matter of finding people who enjoy it. Some of my players just don't like it because it's way too different.
Well, I enjoy 4th edition. One of the problems that I see, that I can see and that I will agree with, is there's not enough customization on the player's end for them, and the feeling of powers feeling all the same.
That is true. It does often feel like the way they did balance was they just took a power as a base and reskinned it and gave it
a bunch of classes. Yeah. Yeah, that is
electricity though. So what does that mean?
That is true.
Damage reduction, that's it.
Yeah, one of the writers that I've enjoyed the most so far when he makes different powers is Chris Diaz from Ultramodern 4. He made a science fiction version of D&D 4th edition, and his writing, every power that he's made has always been entertaining to read. I loathe reading powers, spells, disciplines, whatever you want to call them. I hate reading them. Why? Because each and every one of those things is a new rule that I have to fucking learn. And I hate them. But his were really entertaining to read.
Yeah. That's why I would like to. What I think would be a good system, and for me at least, would be you give me ground rules that I can customize without actually using the book. You give me these limitations, and you say you can do this much of this and this much of this, but you can't do both at the same time because that's too much. And then let me decide what I want to do with that while I'm playing. Like, I believe that would be a lot more fun for us from a strategical standpoint. Like, I have to take and weigh out what do I want to do. Maybe there's like something I can do to increase my movement speed, but I'm really not going to hit nearly as hard. Maybe I have the ability to actually charge at somebody, but by the time I do it, the probability of me actually hitting them when I'm charging at them is low because they see me coming. So why wouldn't they try to get out of the way?
Yeah.
Before I even get there.
Yeah, I understand. That's why you see that's the thing why I like about rules like system, because you can do that with a rules like system, because you're gonna come up with that on the fly, and you can easily say that, and you talk about it with the GM, and if the GM is receptive, you can say, hey, yeah, sure, let's do that. We'll do it that way. Which one? +2 to this and take away that? Yeah, that's no problem. We can do that. And, it can also be done with rules heavy system. But then you're gonna get that one guy. Wait a minute, that's a feat. fuck you doing?
That's why if I was gonna do it in rules heavy system, if it's a feat, that's fine. You just don't get the same bonuses.
Yeah.
Obviously, like I said, you could take a -2 to hit and get a +1 to damage. That is the flip side of power attack. Power attack's definitely better than that. Because of course, a -1 to hit for a +2 to damage, totally worth it. Because all you're really doing is you're basically giving up your base attack bonus for bonus damage. That's what you're doing, depending on what class you're playing. Because I've done it with Bard too, so you're actually taking a -1.
I believe charge is like that. It's a combat maneuver, isn't it?
Yeah. Charge you can do. I think it actually gives you a bonus to hit though.
Yeah. It gives you a bonus. It gives you a bonus to hit, but I think you might have a negative. No, it does give you a negative to something.
It gives you a negative. Oh, I know. You can move. I think you get to move twice your movement speed. You get a bonus to hit, but you take a -2 to armor class. That's it. You just take a negative armor class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, if you're running, if you decide to move twice your speed, that's considered a run. Then the next turn you're at -4 to hit, on your AC. I know that with running, with the running rule.
I might be thinking of it wrong. I'd have to look up charge again. Maybe someone had a feat or something. I don't know all the feats, obviously. I personally think the game could do with less feats. That's why, have you ever looked at Iron Heroes?
No, I haven't seen Iron Heroes.
Maybe
I might have it somewhere in my in my spare hard drive that I have over there, but
they have this thing called mastery feats, and what it is it basically got rid of a lot of feats. Like, you know how sometimes you just take a feat so that you can get to a better feat later?
Yeah.
Basically what they did is they took all those unnecessary feats that you're going to go into, and they basically made them like trees.
I'm assuming they evolved. You pick that feat, and when you pick this feat at this level, you have access to these things.
Well, what it is when you pick the feat, you get it at its first level. But you can pick the feat again to increase it to level 2. I think it would honestly be cool if it was something along the lines where you pick a feat, and as you progress, the feat progresses with you. I think that would be cool.
That would be better. I know a few feats function like that in 4th edition. Like, you pick this feat, and at level, it gives you a +1 to hit, and then when you get to Paragon, it gives you a +2, then when you get to Epic, it gives you a +3.
Well, this works a lot different. It'll give you additional mechanics, too. Instead of just increasing what the feat does, it gives bonus mechanics as well. So, they don't have Great Cleave anymore. You just take Cleave, and then it increases in levels, and then you just get Great Cleave.
Right.
Or Greater Cleave, whatever it's called. But I personally like that idea. I like the idea of you just taking maybe 3 or 4 feats and just putting a level next to it, instead of just opening a book and just be like, whoa, there's like 800 feats in here. What do I do with this? I mean, what are some good feats? And I'm like, I don't know. Most people pick power attack. Okay, I'm taking that one. That's what it ends up being, because nobody wants to sit there and read them.
I personally like my feats where they don't give me situational modifiers. Give me a permanent bonus, and I'm done. I don't want to look at a feat again after that.
Yeah.
Don't make me keep looking up a feat.
I like things kind of like power attack, where you can turn them on and off, because then that gives you that choice of strategy. Because sometimes you fight a monster that's really easy to hit. You don't need the bonus to hit, so you take that negative just to kill it faster. But sometimes something's really hard to hit, and you can't get the bonus damage, so you're just focusing more on being precise. So I do like that. It adds a little bit of flavor, in my opinion. Because I honestly don't think there is a disconnect between mechanics and role-playing. A lot of people. That's why a lot of people don't like 4th edition, because they feel that the mechanics are so strong that you can't role-play with them. And I will never understand how you can't roleplay just because mechanics.
Yeah, I know. Well, one of the beefs is of 4th edition, and I love 4th edition. Is the length of time in combat,
Yeah.
and yeah, that can kill someone's when someone does not get immersed in combat, they don't want to deal with it. They want to get immersed into their character. So I can understand that aspect of the complaint. The problem is with 4th edition is that a lot of the a few of the GM advice is horrible, actually. Really, you should be dealing with... I've seen some really good advice, I believe, from Sly Flourish and Stalker Zero's Guide to anti-grind. It's an EN World thread where you just use level 1, the same level of the party. The party's all level 1. Just use level 1 creatures. You're done.
Mm-hmm.
You move the game so much faster. You kill them so much faster. And if you keep doing that, the players will start to build their characters differently. They don't have to worry about maximization anymore.
Yeah, I've really been considering finally putting in the work and creating my own system. It's just I want to find out. I know what I want. I just don't know how to do it. I want fast, exciting combat that is still statistically friendly, because I don't like dice pool, and I believe dice pool's faster or slower in your opinion?
Dice pool is slower. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I can deal with dice pools. My first games were dice pools. Actually, my first game was Marvel TSR. But yeah, it can get clunky. It can get pretty clunky. So yeah.
But it's just I gotta find out exactly what kind of mechanic I can add that hasn't already been implemented, or maybe mechanics that haven't been used in a certain way to make combat not annoying to the people who don't care about winning, essentially. Because that's not what I'm looking for in combat. I'm not looking to win, I'm looking to have a good time. Right. And I just don't have a good time when combat comes around, because there's nothing interesting that I can think of that my character can do unless you give me like environmental things that I can do. Like, okay, we're fighting on a cliff, I might be able to push the guy off the cliff. I think one of the most interesting things I ever did was I pushed a guy into a river and I fought him in the river.
Yeah, that sounds to me like you have ran up against some really just not creative GMs when it comes to combat. It sounds to me like a lot of the combat is player 1, player 2, fight. There's nothing else to it, to the combat.
But it's just there's a few things that have always bugged me, and that's why I was starting to love 4th edition.
Because I think combat, even in Pathfinder, because I know I played 3rd edition, it can be fun, but that GM, he has to step up. You know, if he's not doing a very good encounter, then he's screwing you over.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, sometimes the rules would get in the way because I'd have these really interesting ideas, and they just wouldn't work within the rules.
Like what idea?
Like, okay, one time and this is a little bit far-fetched because realistically you can't do this all that fast. But just as a quick example, I wanted to attach a rope to my arrow, shoot the arrow at the opponent, and then use that as a way to pull him in closer to us.
Okay.
Granted, that's not that amazing of an idea, but just things like, jumping, grabbing a tree, and then attacking all in one turn. Some DMs will allow it, but I don't know if the rules will completely allow that.
I don't know, because something like that. Okay, so like if I was the GM, all right, you wanna tie a rope to. All right, fine. You're gonna have to take. You have to spend time getting that rope out. Hopefully, you have the rope by your side, right? So you might say spend a standard action to do that. So you have to wait the next turn.
Yeah.
And then the next turn you shoot that arrow, and then you try, and I'm gonna judge. Okay, that arrow might get pulled out with the tug. It's not. Arrows are not meant to do that. So, boom, you tug them, and so maybe I might do a little bit extra damage, maybe. But I'm telling you, because then players will go crazy. It's like ropes on arrows all day, every day, because they do extra damage. No.
But okay, well, what about something as simple as and I tried to do this in Alex's game, and I try not to say anything to a DM when I feel like bummed out about something. I usually just let it slide because it's whatever, unless it's a big deal. But my idea was that I would quickly grab some sand and throw it in my enemy's eyes while attacking at the same time. And in my mind, I was just like, okay, I'll take negatives to attack. But I guess grabbing sand and throwing it at an opponent is a standard action, or whatever the equivalent of a standard action would be in old D&D.
And that's the problem. They don't have those types of actions in AD&D.
Yeah. So I mean, like, okay, but like in Pathfinder 3.5, if I were to grab a handful of sand and throw it at my opponent, am I gonna have to wait until next turn just to attack?
Yeah, that could be. Let's see. Because if grabbing a pile of sand, you can just say that's a. See. Maybe I always say a minor action. And the thing is, technically, by the rules, attacking with throwing the sand is actually an attack. It's a range attack that you're doing. So I would say, okay, if either you throw the sand and you blind the guy, but you have to wait. You're gonna have to wait until your attack for the next turn. But he's blind. At least he's blind until the next time you attack. At the very least, minimum.
Yeah. But then you gotta mix mechanics with roleplay because 2 turns is 12 seconds.
Yeah. See, that's why I never liked fucking. That's why I never liked keeping track of time.
Yeah.
In any game, I was like, you know what? How much is a turn? It's a fucking turn. Shut the fuck up and start doing your thing.
Yeah. It's just there is some things that I really wish you could do and it would allow you, like what if I wanted to, when I'm moving at my opponent and I slide in to attack instead of just walk up to him? What would that be?
That's really well. That's pretty easy. Sliding in like that. Since I play more rules light games, then I would say fine that you get the guy gets a -2 to hit you. Well, actually, no, he won't because it's prone. Usually, when you're prone like that, it's easier to hit you because now you just gave your opponent the high ground.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, me personally, when I think of this, I'm like, okay, what exactly are you doing? I'm going to try and run at him and slide under his legs and attack him while I'm sliding under him.
Yeah.
That's going to put you prone. You know this. Yeah, I know that. All right,
Yeah.
so why not give them like a +1 to hit because you threw the enemy off guard?
Yeah. Well, like again, with 3rd and 4th edition and Pathfinder, it's really easy. You're just moving into his squares. You're giving him an attack of opportunity when you're sliding in like that.
Mm.
You know, you have to move in between his legs, pretty much, or past his legs, and that means you're moving into his square. So, I give you okay. That's very easy to judge. Okay, you just got an attack of opportunity, but since it's a shock, then I'm gonna give you a bonus to hit this guy.
Okay.
You gotta get past that attack of opportunity.
But by the rule, you're just screwing yourself because you're putting yourself. And he gets an attack of opportunity, but you're not getting any bonuses.
Yeah, but now the thing is, the reason why you have to, at least for me, the reason why you have to do things like that, because then all of a sudden, if you make that too good, all of a sudden it doesn't become D&D, it becomes SNS, slip and slide.
Yeah.
No.
I'm not saying it should be a big bonus. I'm saying like, maybe like add a cinematic mechanic to a game, like when you make these cinematic movements, like maybe you can spend points to do cinematic things and get bonuses, but you know it's specific to spending those points.
Right.
Something like that could work.
Yeah.
I don't know how you would earn the points, but
I believe Fate Core. I think Fate Core does have a system like that. Don't quote me on it because I'm not real familiar with Fate Core, but I believe you can do that with stunts. Although I mistaken stunts with feats.
1 second. I'm actually grabbing this book because it has some things kind of like stunts in here. I don't think they're called stunts, but yeah.
Son of a bitch. But I think it's very possible you can do that with this game. If not, you can do that with fate points. Excuse me. Yeah, you could probably do that with fate points. But then again, I haven't started reading this yet because I want to run. I might run a superhero game with this.
Yeah, see, like, this game has it pretty simple. Stunts would be using skills in combat.
Yeah.
I'd have to read it again to see exactly how it works, because I honestly don't remember entirely.
Right.
It says here, if you want to do a stunt, like an attack stunt, it's a full round attack.
Right.
You have to take a full attack action,
right.
No matter what. And like it says, disrupting attack. I don't know exactly what that does, but like it's got all these different rules for different kinds of things you could do with your skills. But essentially, what it is like, you could run up your opponent and stuff like that. Like,
yeah.
Essentially theatrical combat. And that's what I would love. I think theatrical combat would be amazing. And people were like, well, you know, that's not realistic. And I was like, well, if I wanted realistic, I would go play Dagger here. You know, me and my friends, we do create foam weapons and we go fight each other.
Right. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, well, yeah, I think a point system would do that. Some sort of action point system would be able to help you out with that.
Yeah, I mean,
I just can't remember.
I honestly,
Go ahead.
I'm not just saying this like I'm not trying to be the poster child of Iron Heroes, but I'm really in love with this system because it's got a token pool system for most of the classes too, where like an archer can take aim at an opponent and he can spend his move action if he wants to stay still to gain a token, and then he can spend that token to increase his chance to hit. Because basically what it is he's observing his target, and he has a better chance of actually hitting them. He gets bonuses when his target doesn't move in between actions. He could take a full round action. So essentially, if an archer sees an opponent before the opponent sees him, his surprise round is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I take a full round action. Oh, my opponent didn't move. That's 5 tokens. All right,
Yeah. I've seen stuff like that in other games. That's why, yeah, I've seen it, but I just can't remember because there's so many rules, so many fucking rules are that's running through my head. That's why I'm kind of done with reading new rules. I don't want to deal with them anymore.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple systems out there I'm interested in. I'm going to get D&D next when it comes out. Or, well, Dungeons and Dragons, as they're calling it. But we're going to call it next or 5th edition.
Yeah.
I'm interested in getting 13th Age. I want to get that and try it out. R.A. Salvatore made a game, and I already pre-ordered it. So when that comes in, I'm going to read it, and I'll probably run it once or twice. If I like it, I'll run it more than that.
Right.
But I just know I like the man's writing, so I trusted him enough to buy his game.
Yeah, here we go.
Going for somewhat of an old school feel, so if I wanted to play an old school feeling game, I'd probably pull that one out.
Here we go. This invoking an aspect, you have to spend a fate point. This allows you to either re-roll the dice or add a +2 to your roll, whichever is more helpful. It's gonna be somehow connected to your aspect. So if you have an aspect that says, "Hey, I like to do crazy stunts," there you go. That's your character right there.
All right. So essentially, you have to create, like, you have to explain what your character is doing, and then you get these bonuses because of it.
Yeah, but you usually has to
spend your point, of course.
Yeah, but it's got to be connected to, again, your aspects, because the best way to create an aspect, you got to make it a double edge. So this way, it can compel. It can it's called compelling and invoking. And when you invoke an aspect, I believe that's the way it is. You're trying to use it as a bonus. But when when the GM evokes your aspect, he's using it against you. So you want to double up on the aspect. So like that aspect I just mentioned. I like to do crazy stunts. You can write it down like that. Or you can write it down, I like to do crazy stunts, but I like to do crazy stunts.
Right? It's like, it doesn't matter what the situation is, I'm going to do crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So I might say, you go into a ballroom, and then I tell you, I invoke, hey, I compel you, hey, I'm going to give you a fate point. Why are you going to give me a fate point? There's a chandelier in the ballroom. All there, waiting. It looks like it can hold you.
Nice.
Yes.
So it's just like you just kind of poke him. He's like, "Hey, there's a chandelier over there."
Yeah. It looks like it can hold you, dude.
Well, what about it? Well,
it can hold you.
It's pretty sturdy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's some pretty nice curtains over there, and you could jump that far.
Yeah.
No, but that's.
But you gotta. Yeah, but you gotta make that. You gotta make that invoke. So that compel really connected to that aspect.
It sounds like a fun game. Me personally, when I play, if I don't take the system seriously, I just can't take my character seriously. That's why I try to play like rules-heavy games, because then I can take my character more seriously. But when I play games with really easy mechanics, I don't put a lot of thought into what I'm doing, just because I don't have to. It's really easy. It's just, that's how my brain works. If something's easy, I'm going to treat it as such. If something's complicated, I'm going to treat it as such. Like, I'm also more prone to get hurt doing something that isn't dangerous because, well, I'm not thinking of safety because it's not dangerous. But when I drive a car, I'm thinking of safety the entire time, and I've never been in any car wrecks, so.
Yeah.
There's that.
I've been in plenty of car accidents. I always get hit from behind. But
I didn't know you could
yeah,
play.
so yeah, I mean, I've been wanting to play. I've been wanting to play this game, but I just can't get into it because it wasn't clicking with me. What?
Is that a fairly small book? It looks a little bit small.
It's a very small book. This is my Nexus 7.
Nice.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a very small book. But
it's legitimately a handbook.
yeah, but then you got Fate Core, and that thing is like comic book size.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, this is Fate Accelerated. I'm sorry. This is Fate Accelerated, and that's even smaller. You know, I was reading this book, and I'm someone that needs explanations, and this was like too brief for me.
Yeah.
I'm reading it. Damn it, I need something with more explanations. And then I got what I wished for with this book. And oh my God, they avalanche you with explanations. I think this book can be even skinnier.
That reminds me of a joke. You might have saw it. I think I posted it in the brigade, or you might have saw it on my page. But it was like, what do you call a guide to two-weapon fighting? An offhand book.
Aww. That's pretty bad, dude. That's pretty bad.
I love cheesy jokes, man. That one just got me because I've never really.
Oh yeah, I've seen a lot of the cheesy jokes that you have put.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm all about the cheesy jokes. Like, I'm already at that stage of the cheesy jokes, and you usually have to become an old man before you enjoy those jokes. Nope.
Dude, I'm an old man. I don't like cheesy. I still don't like cheesy jokes.
No, I'm just saying, it's always that, you always got that one uncle who loves cheesy jokes. I'm gonna be that uncle.
Yep. Now you remind me of the, what's his name? Chris Rock. Yeah, the Chris Rock joke. You always got that one uncle. That's always that one thing you want to worry about. That you worry about. You hate gays? You got a gay uncle. You worry about molesters? You got that molester uncle. And everyone's like, oh, no, shut up. You got that one molester uncle. The one that you worry about. Every time you ask about where's your kids? Oh, they're with Uncle Jeb. Get them kids! Get them kids! Hurry up and get them kids! It happens.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and call the video here.
Yeah.
That was fun though.
Yes, because we're done to Chris Rock jokes. That has nothing to do with role playing.
Yep. We got
that's it, man. We're talking about molestation and Chris Rock jokes. So I think that's it. I think we're done.
Yep, that's where we're gonna end it off.
Yes. Yes.
But alright, dude. See ya. Good night, guys.
Take care.